Who's calling the roll tonight? Okay, Ben, you call the roll, please.
Ms. Atkinson?
Here.
Mr. Ferguson?
Here.
Mr. Fitz?
Here.
Mr. Howell?
Here.
Mr. Lockwood? Ms. Price?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Here. Any changes, corrections, additions to the minutes? If not, how about a motion to accept, please?
I think it's on. So moved.
Okay, motion by Ms. Atkinson, second by Mr. Ferguson.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Dr. Fitz?
Pass.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Lane?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Chair Davenport?
Yes. Before we begin our hearing tonight, we got two items I want to bring to your attention. The first one is if you're here for the conditional use permit on the property located on 1201 Harrington Street, that has been withdrawn, so there'll be no action taken on that tonight. So if you're here for that, you can stay if you want to, but you're more than welcome to leave. And one other item on the agenda, the not on the farm property, we're going to move it down to the bottom of the agenda, so it'll be a few minutes before we do that, so that way we can get some empty chairs in here for you too. Okay, before we begin our hearing tonight, our counselor, Mr. Hoy Hodges, will tell you what you have to do in order to get your approval.
And Mr. Chairman, on all these applications tonight, if you'd make the following matters a part of the record. The joint zoning ordinance of Warren County, the comprehensive plan along with all elements which are in effect, the staff reports, and any exhibits which are attached to those staff reports should also be made part of the record. And then also we need to swear in Amy Scott, Jenny Willoughby, and Rachel Hurt, and recognize their qualifications as zoning administrators and that they be recognized as expert witnesses for any testimony they may give tonight.
Y'all starting to tell the truth, ladies?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You see, tonight we have several requests for waiver or variance, and then also we have a request for conditional use permit. With respect to the variance and waiver, there are certain requirements the board must make, and those are set forth in KRS 100.243. The board must find that the requested variance or waiver will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, that it will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, that it will not cause a hazard or a nuisance to the public, that it will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. And there are certain other findings that the board must make for the waiver, even though technically a waiver it originates from the same statute as a variance, but the local ordinance set findings in section 3.8.4, and in particular subpart F, sets forth other findings that you have to make. On the conditional use permit, there are certain findings the board has to make, and all of them are set forth in the zoning ordinance. The findings are in section 3.9.5 of the zoning ordinance. The board must find that the use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it is proposed, that the use will not contribute toward an overburdening of municipal services, that the use is not a nuisance, that it adequately addresses the review criteria in section 3.9.4 of the zoning ordinance, and that it's otherwise in compliance with the zoning ordinance, and that also applies to specific use standards that may attach to the requested conditional use permit. And the ones before the board tonight do have specific use standards. But I mentioned section 3.9.4, which lists the review criteria, but most importantly, that section states that the Board of Adjustment shall not approve the application of a conditional use permit unless the applicant adequately addresses the review criteria. And part of the review criteria is compatibility. So the burden is upon the applicant to address compatibility in any other criteria that may apply to the property as a threshold matter. A majority vote of those present is required to prevail upon any action tonight. A pass vote has no force or effect. And if you don't like a decision rendered here tonight, you have 30 days to file an appeal, and that will go to Warren Circuit Court. And I believe that touches everything, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Our first request tonight, Rick Bessett, applicant, and Mary Jane and Richard Bessett, owners, have filed an application requesting a waiver to allow a proposed detached building to be located in front of the primary residence located at 701 Hydro Pondsville Road. This property is zoned RE Residential Estate and AG Agricultural. Oh, there you are.
Sorry, I sneaked up on you.
Go ahead.
So the application, we had a pre-application meeting back in January for the property over on Hydro Pondsville Road. The current zoning of the property is residential estate and agriculture. The current land use is single-family residential, and there is their proposed site plan for y'all's reference. The applicant is requesting a waiver to allow our proposed detached building to be located in front of the primary residence. So looking down on page 1 to the zoning ordinance reference, section 4.4.5.E.1, no accessory building or structure shall extend beyond the front of the principal structure. Looking over on page 2 to the bottom of the waiver findings, the applicants have provided a narrative for your all's reference as well, and the board should consider or should determine if the applicant has provided sufficient information to address the above reference findings for a waiver request. And with that, looking back to the points to consider on page 1, the board should consider if the requested waiver arises from special circumstances which do not generally apply to land in the general vicinity, or if there are any extraordinary or exceptional topographical conditions that would deprive the property owner of the reasonable use of the land. And the board should also consider if the proposed waiver will alter the essential character of the general vicinity. And that's all that I have for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Is there any questions of the staff from the board? The board have any questions? Applicant here? You're the applicant? Does the board have any questions of the applicant? Do we need to bring the applicant up? Anyone opposed to this request? Any opposition to this request? Motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for a waiver at 701 Hydro Pondsville Road, docket number 2024-B-03. The waiver is to allow an accessory building to extend beyond the front of the principal structure. Testimony presented in the public hearing has shown that granting these waivers will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. Further, I find that waivers will not violate the comprehensive plan, and the extent of the waivers of the regulation is the minimum necessary to afford relief to the applicants. The strict application of provisions of the regulations would deprive the applicants of reasonable use of the land or would create an unnecessary hardship on the applicants, and that the waiver is compatible with the neighborhood.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, your request has been approved. Thank you all for coming down. Thank you. Our next request tonight, Angela R. Donders has filed an application requesting a waiver to allow a proposed attached building to be located in front of the primary residence located at 1323 Cooper Deering Road. And this property is owned RE Residential Estate. There you are again.
Yep, I keep sneaking up. So we had a pre-application meeting back in February for the property on Cooper Deering Road. The current zoning of the property is residential estate. Current land use is single-family residential. And similar to the request before, the applicant is requesting a waiver to allow an accessory structure, more specifically an existing shed, to be located in front of the primary residence. Their site plan can be found on page 7. Zoning ordinance reference, section 4.4.5.E.1, no accessory building or structure shall extend beyond the front of the principal structure. And so looking back to the waiver findings, or looking over to the waiver findings, excuse me, on page 2, similar situation, they've provided a narrative for your all's reference, and the board should consider if the applicant has adequately addressed the findings required for granting this waiver. Looking back to the points to consider, the Board of Adjustment should consider if the requested waiver arises from special circumstances which do not generally apply to land in the general vicinity, or if there are any extraordinary or exceptional topographical conditions that would deprive the property owner of the reasonable use of the land. The board should consider if the proposed waiver will alter the essential character of the general vicinity. And then another point to consider, the current placement of the shed is located within the required front setback. The applicant will relocate the structure to the location shown on the attached site plan, again on page 7. Upon approval, please see the staff recommended condition on page 2. And so that condition reads, the applicant shall apply for a building permit for the existing shed and relocate the accessory structure to the approved location prior to the issuance of a building permit for the planned addition to the primary residence. And that's all that I have for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the staff of the board? Board members have a question, staff? Oh, is the applicant here? The applicant, okay. Does the board have any questions of the applicant?
Yes.
You do? Somebody?
Yes.
Okay. Could you mind coming up so we can swear you in, ma'am? If you could give them your full name and address, please.
Angela R. Donders, 1323 Cooper Deering Road in Elverton, Kentucky 42122.
And ma'am, do you swear to tell the truth?
Yes,
Thank you. Dr. Pitts?
How long has the shed been in its present location?
a year and a half.
Okay. Did you come to the board, to the planning and zoning to get this okayed at the time?
No, I did not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant from the board? Anyone opposition to this? Thank you, ma'am. Anyone opposition to this request? Any opposition? Motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we deny this request for a waiver at 1323 Copper Deering Road, docket number 2024-V-04, a waiver to allow accessory building to extend beyond the front of the principal structure. Sufficient testimony is not presented in this public hearing that the requested waiver meets the criteria set in Article 3, Section 3.8.4 of the zoning ordinance, requiring the findings that it will alter the essential character of the general vicinity. It will be a nuisance to the public, and it would allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations.
That's the proper motion.
Okay. Motion by Dr. Fitz, second by? Second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Price.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
No, I feel like the strict application of the provisions is depriving the applicant.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
I vote yes. Sorry, ma'am, your request has been denied. Our next request tonight, Hollis Hounds applicant and Hollis Bradford and Rodney Smith owners have filed an application for conditional use permit to operate a home occupation, more specifically a dog grooming salon on the property located at 420 Countrywood Place. This property is zoned RE Residential Estate. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me get there.
We've left one here.
We had a pre-application meeting for the property that you mentioned in September of 2023 and again in January of 2024. The current zoning is RE, Residential Estate. The current land use is single-family residential. And the applicants did provide a site plan, and that can be found on page 8 of your packet. And the applicant is requesting a CUP to operate a home occupation, more specifically for dog grooming. The middle of page 1 is the zoning ordinance reference. In Article 5, Section 5.1, the use table, a conditional use permit is required to operate a home occupation on property zoned RE. On the bottom of page 1 is the zoning ordinance reference for your review for home occupation. Looking over at page 2 for the conditions that the applicant supplied. Hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and by appointment only. Number 2, there will be a maximum of 4 clients per day. And number 3, no more than 2 client vehicles on the property at a time for the purpose of drop-off and pickup. And on the bottom of page 2 are the conditional use permits findings for your reference. Looking back at page 1 to points to consider. The board should consider if the proposed use is appropriate in the RE zone. The Board of Adjustment should consider if the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area and existing adjacent properties. And the board should consider if the proposed use will result in increased traffic congestion or constitute a nuisance in the area. That's all we have for a staff report. Be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions from the staff of the board? Any questions from the staff? You got a question? Is the applicant here, please? Would you mind stepping up? We probably have a couple of questions for you. Would you give us your full name and address, please?
Yes, it's Holly Bradford, 420 Countrywood Place, Bowling Green, Kentucky, 42101.
And you swear to tell the truth, ma'am?
I do.
First thing I want to ask you, it's quite obvious. You're trying to open up a business in a single-family residential neighborhood.
Yes, sir.
How do you think that business fits in with the character of the neighborhood?
Due to me only having 4 a day, and it being while most people work, I've discussed with the 2 neighbors that live in front of me, and I actually groom their dogs, so they're okay with that. I don't see that it would cause any issues or anything like that.
I have a question.
Are you going to have a, go ahead.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Are you going to put any type of sign up?
I don't plan on putting anything up other than a very small sign in the front, probably about this wide and about this tall, just so they know where to go, where the entrance is.
Any other questions from the board of the applicant?
I want a confirmation too. Does Lloyd have a question?
Well, will these dogs be kept inside your home at all times?
It will be actually in the garage.
Well, inside of the building?
Inside, yes.
So they will be there for grooming only, no boarding, limited period of time, and not outside to be a barking or nuisance to neighbors?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a question?
Would you be satisfied with no signage? This is a residential neighborhood.
Absolutely. If you don't want any signs, I will not put signs.
Okay.
I take my dog to groom, or my grand dog, let me put it that way, and I leave it. And the facility is in a commercial area, and it's noisy. And I have to leave the dog, take it at 9 o'clock in the morning, and may pick it up at 5.
Yes, sir.
So if I have 4 dogs there, they're going to be noisy.
No.
You know, if you have 4 dogs, you're not going to be picked up at 5 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Because I doubt if anyone stays during a grooming period. So it just, I'm like Mr. Davenport, just wondered, if I lived next door to you or just down the street from you and I could hear those dogs making that noise, you know, I would be offended. I mean, I'm in a residential neighborhood with, you know, single-family people and trying to enjoy the ownership of their home, and then all of a sudden I've got a dog grooming.
Yes, sir.
You know, I try to look at, well, a hair salon. You know, we've approved people who have a hair salon, but, you know, the disturbance is nil. So, what would you do with the noise factor?
So I have a couple of things that I plan on doing. So the first thing I have is an Apple Watch that has a decibel reader. If the noise is the level is to exceed, I only plan on doing mainly small dogs that are comfortable with me, that I've been grooming for about 6 years, that don't really bark. And then I have a decibel reader on my Apple Watch. If it is to exceed that noise, I completely understand. I don't want to be outside and hear constant noise myself. We are almost at the end of the road, and then I also have looked into wall paneling that soundproofs the wall that I intend on putting up in the garage on all 4 walls.
If I'm not mistaken, I think there's a planning ordinance or use ordinance for that type of business to be within 500 feet of other structures? No? What is it?
That's a kennel.
That's a kennel.
And
That's
it's
for boarding.
triggered by a certain number of animals to be considered a commercial kennel. With only having 4 appointments per day, it wouldn't meet that threshold for that additional setback.
Well, thanks for clarifying that. But, you know, I do have issues with, and I commend you trying to make a living, you know, trying to do it at home. And I understand that, and I commend you for that. But this might be a circumstance where you need to find a suitable zoning. And, I mean, you're a destination place, and people would go to you. You don't have to be on the front of Scottsville Road. You could probably find some, you know, rental property that wouldn't cost you too much to groom dogs in, but wouldn't be offensive to residential neighborhoods.
Okay.
Another concern, we don't have, in a single-family neighborhood, you're only going to have 4 dogs and 2 cats. That's great. But most businesses, they like to grow and get bigger. And we don't have any dog wardens out here to go by and check how many dogs you have and how many cars are coming in the neighborhood. And we've had this kind of situation before where it kind of got out of hand for us. We don't have any way to control. We can believe you, but most businesses want to get bigger. And, well, I can take one more a day, nobody knows the difference. And not saying that you'll do that, but that's another concern we have. And the biggest concern is a single-family residential neighborhood. And we're putting a business in there. And once we open the door for one business, then like he said, we might have a beauty shop want to come in, or we may have a guy that wants to work on lawnmowers, or there can be all kinds of different things coming through there. Courtney, do you have another question?
No, I'm good.
All right. Any other questions from the board of the applicant?
Oh, I do have one other question.
Okay.
You are the only groomer, right? Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So there's no one else that would have any other dogs at your place at the time? Okay.
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Any opposition to this request? Would you come up, please? If we can get your full name and address, please.
Carolyn Torrance, 405 Countrywood Place,
And
Bowling
you-
Green, Kentucky.
You swear to tell the truth, ma'am?
42101.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You swear to tell the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, all right. Your concern?
Well, I live across the street, and my husband just retired, and I've retired, and we've lived in our house 40 years there. And it was a concern when I got that little postcard in the mail about a business, a grooming business. And we didn't know if she would have like kennels in the backyard. Would she have the dogs on leashes when they were coming and going? And my husband just had a kidney removed, and, you know, we just have a quiet neighborhood. And it's not a lot of in and out, you know, where you can go in and go out. But I was against it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate the comments. Any other opposition to this request? Motion, please.
I make a motion to deny the conditional use permit, docket number 2024-C-05, for home occupation located at 420 Countrywood Place, because the use will result in a nuisance to the residential neighborhood, and that it does not meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance. It is not felt to be compatible with the neighborhood.
Mr. Proper motion.
Second.
Motion, Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, that request has been denied. As Mr. Hodges said, you have 30 days to take it to Court of Appeals to appeal it if you wish. Our next request, Jennifer Gale Balance, applicant, and William Boyd and Jennifer Gale Balance, owners, have filed an application for a conditional use permit in order to operate a short-term rental on the property located at 13767 Louisville Road. Now, this property is zoned AG Agricultural. Rachel.
Thank you, Chair Davenport. We had a pre-application meeting back in January for the property you just referenced, located on Louisville Road. Current zoning is agriculture, and the current use is also agriculture. This was the site plan that was submitted by the applicants, and as you mentioned, the request this evening is for a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental. You can see from the zoning ordinance reference in the middle of page 1, section 5.1, our use table requires a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental in the agriculture zone. The applicants supplied 4 conditions on page 2. Number 1, there would be a maximum of 3 bedrooms for rent. Number 2, a maximum of 3 vehicles in the designated parking area. Number 3, quiet hours would be from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., And 4, if the property is ever sold or the applicant ceases the use, the CUP would be null and void. And on page 1, we had a couple of items for your consideration. First, the board should consider if the proposed use is appropriate in the agriculture zone. And second, the board should consider if the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area and if it will alter the character of the area. That is all for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Didn't we just do a conditional use permit for the same people recently?
Not for this property,
They have a.
for this, not for this
racetrack
building.
for,
It was, yeah.
Vehicles,
Oh,
off-road
okay,
vehicles,
okay. That's what, that's
in the
something.
same area.
All right, I'm sorry, any questions of the staff from the board?
Yes.
Go ahead.
The 177 acres, if this were approved, would it cover that whole 177 acres?
It would just cover the residential structure and the parking area that's on the site plan. If they wanted to do any other type of short-term rental, they would have to file an amendment to allow for further use in the future.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Applicants here? Got the applicants back here. Does the board have any questions of the applicants? Any opposition to this request? Any opposition? Motion, please.
I'll make a motion we approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-06 for short-term rental located at 13767 Louisville Road with the conditions as presented in the staff report. Testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it is proposed. The use will not contribute to an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance, and that the use otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance. It is felt to be compatible in its neighborhood.
Second.
Motion, Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, that request has been approved. Thank you all for coming down. Our next request tonight, Mars Hill Church of Christ has filed an application for conditional use permit to operate a religious institution on the properties at 4110 and 4136 Jackson Bridge Road. The properties are zoned AG agricultural. Rachel?
Thank you again, Chair Davenport. We had a pre-application meeting back in February for the properties you just referenced located on Jackson Bridge Road. The zoning is currently agriculture, and the use is single-family and public institutional. And this is the site plan that I will reference, and we have a few different exhibits here, so we can flip back and forth as needed. The request this evening for this property is a conditional use permit to operate a religious institution. This has historically operated for that very use. The applicants have demolished the original main structure and had applied for a building permit for a new structure and realized that the conditional use permit was required for the agricultural zone, and you can see that's referenced in the middle of page 1 there in section 5.1, the use table. The applicant supplied one condition on page 1, and that is that church-related activities will take place between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. with exceptions for special events and holidays. And you've got your conditional use permit findings for reference at the bottom of page 1, running on to page 2. And then under points to consider, we didn't have any points to consider pending any public hearing and testimony.
Where it says current land use, public institutional, what's the public institution?
That's how we would classify a church as far as the land use, the use of the property.
Currently.
Okay. All right. Any questions of the board, from the board of the staff? The applicants here? Applicants there? Any questions from the applicant from the board? Anybody got any questions? Any opposition to this request? Motion, please.
I'll make a motion we approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-07 for a religious institution located at 4110 and 4136 Jackson Bridge Road with the conditions as presented in the staff report. Testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental, actually isn't, certainly not detrimental, to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it's proposed. The use will not contribute to an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance, and that the use otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance. And such a use is compatible in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Second.
Motion, Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, that request has been approved. Thank you all for coming down. Appreciate it. Our next request tonight, Chad and Natalie Willis, applicants, and CHG Properties LLC owners, have filed an application for conditional use permit in order to operate a short-term rental on the property located at 1301 Weston Street. This property is zoned RM2, two-family residential. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting on February the 15th for the property that you mentioned. Its current zoning is RM2. Current land use is single-family residential. And the applicants did supply a site plan for your review. And again, the applicants are requesting a CUP to operate a short-term rental. There's a zoning ordinance reference, Article 5, Section 5.1, use table. A conditional use permit is required to operate a short-term rental on property zoned RM2. Below that are the specific use standards for short-term rentals. On page 2, the applicants did supply some conditions. Number 1, a maximum of 3 rooms for rent. Number 2, a maximum of 3 vehicles in the designated parking areas. Number 3, quiet hours will be from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Number 4, there will be no signage on the property. And number 5, if the property is ever sold or the applicant ceases the use, the CUP will be null and void. Below that are the conditional use permits findings. And if we go back to page 1 for the points to consider, the Board of Adjustment should consider the impact on permanent workforce housing availability in this part of the city if the existing single-family home is converted into short-term rental. And the board should consider if the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area, including the existing single-family residential uses adjacent to the property. That's all we have for a staff report, but can answer any questions.
Any questions from the board or the staff?
I do have one question. Is the majority, or do you have any way to identify how many homes are single-family?
In that general area, we might be able to go back to, so if you go back to your existing land use map there, everything in yellow would be the single family, so you can.
That's what I wanted to confirm,
Yeah.
because I knew it was RM2. But generally, other than those couple of commercial,
Yeah, you do have a couple
operations.
of multifamily in the red, and then the rest would, the purple is commercial, but the yellow
Correct.
would be single
Okay.
family.
I just wanted to confirm what I was seeing.
Any other questions from the board or the staff?
I do have a question to staff. I'm real familiar with that area, and I understand the street, see if I can find the name of it. Just past Professional Park Avenue, there's a street that turns to the left, and it faces the doctor's offices. Are there duplexes down through there?
So are you talking right along the corner of Kenton Avenue in Weston? Is that the corner you're speaking of? Those would be the multifamily areas that I think do have
That's what I
some
was thinking,
duplexes.
that was a multifamily area. Now also, on down, on the first street to the right,
At the roundabout.
past the roundabout, before
Across
past
from
this
Bowling
particular
Green High.
property, on the right. It's
Towards
about maybe
Coxville Road or towards Bowling Green High?
towards Bowling Green High.
Okay, yeah, at the roundabout, there is some multifamily there as well.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some townhomes
At the roundabout?
at the roundabout.
Down-
Well, I knew there was some, like, the corner of that property, that there are some L-shaped duplexes.
Yeah.
That, that are very attractive, very nice homes. So, but it's a mixed use is what you're,
Correct.
yeah.
Any other questions from the staff? Is the applicant here? Would you mind stepping up, please? Could we get your full name and address, please?
Natalie Willis, 74 Clay Ridge Court, Bowling Green, Kentucky.
And you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
So, I noticed the property's for sale.
Yes.
Are you buying it or selling it, or,
Wanting to purchase.
And this conditional use permit is contingent upon you
Yes.
buying the property.
Yes.
If it's turned down, do you think it's going to deprive the purchaser of a reasonable use of that property? They can still rent it out for something else?
I know that it's been unoccupied for 2 years, and it's been on the market for 6 months, vacant, the current way it is.
How do you feel about opening up a business, which, believe it or not, short-term rental is a business, in a single-family neighborhood? And when I say that, I know if you're facing the property, the street that goes back to Professional Park, that's kind of like the dividing line.
Yeah.
Commercial is on, all to the right facing that street. If you go to the left, it's pretty much all single-family residential until you get down close to the high school, and there are some apartments down there. But both sides of that street, for the most part, from Professional Park all the way down, is a single-family residential neighborhood.
Yes.
And we're opening up another business in that neighborhood. Well, are we going to just continue on down that street until there's no single family left on that street, like it happened on the other side of that, on Ashley Circle and all that area through there?
Yeah.
How do you feel about being compatible with the neighborhood there?
Yeah, we have a couple of reasons we feel like it's compatible, and one is that kind of very end location up against it's flanked by 2 commercial properties. We feel it could almost serve as a buffer between the commercial and the residential, as it is the first residential building on that road, on the right side there. We believe that the close proximity to the Sloan Convention Center, as well as Scottsville Road, a prime area for restaurants and small businesses, would be a tourism draw there. We plan to increase the curb appeal of the current home's exterior and landscaping. It makes us competitive for the home to look beautiful, so it will be maintained well and more gorgeous than it is now.
When you say increase the curb appeal, you're going to have to add additional parking, which could mean more paving. How's that going to make the appeal look better?
Yeah,
when you put more
we
blacktop down?
We checked with Bowling Green Public Works. In the circle drive in the front, they approved 2 spots there, partial use of that semicircle that doesn't interfere with, I believe it's called the partially park in the pavement that's located in the ROW. Right of way. So we plan to use 2 spots there, and then it does have a garage that we plan to utilize if there is a third vehicle on the property.
Is the entrance, it has to be off of Weston Avenue, if you use the circle drive up front, is that off Weston Avenue?
The circle drive is off Weston, and then the driveway with the garage is on Professional Park.
Is that circle drive wide enough for 2 cars to go by each other?
To go by each other?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you've got 3 cars parked there and one of them wants to leave, and they're in the back, are they going to have to back out onto Weston Avenue, or are they going to be able to go by the other 2 cars in front of them to pull out on
I
Weston Avenue?
believe we will only allow 2 cars, and that will be very clearly stated to any guests that stay there.
That they can't back out on Weston Avenue.
Yes,
Of course, you know that,
yes.
they may believe you, may not believe you on something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Let's see. Another reason we think it's compatible is that single-family homes are often more conducive for guests than having to book multiple hotel rooms. There are also some comparable STRs in use in the Small House Road and Covington areas that are nearby.
I'm not sure if that's correct.
That's not-
Not on Covington, no.
No, not on I apologize, in the general
Small
area.
House Road, I don't think there's any on Small House Road either. And I know we turned down 2 on Magnolia. I don't think we have any out there. But
My
go
data
ahead.
there is just looking at the several platforms, Airbnb and VRBO.
They may be there, but they're not supposed to be.
Oh, okay. And then, obviously, most important for a residential area would be conditions that we require of our guests. And we're going to take into account issues that are important to the residential neighbors: quiet hours, a vehicle limit, a person, a body limit for the property. Parking will be enforced. We plan to use exterior security system, a ring camera, if you will, to monitor that parking is being done appropriately and the way we've asked them to.
Excuse me, where do you live in relationship to this property?
I'm down Scottsville Road, closer to the Greenwood end. It's about 12 minutes.
Okay, go
Let's see. And we also plan to monitor the noise. There is a decibel monitor that we plan to implement so that noise is never a concern, and if it does become a concern, we will address it with our guests.
Good. Any other questions from the board?
Yes.
Sure.
So the property, what are your plans to upgrade the property? The property's been vacant for 2 years. It's been an eyesore to the neighborhood for probably multiple more years than that. I'm very well familiar with that property. Knew the family that lived there years and years ago. But somebody's gone in and tried to renovate it to a point, but it's still not the best.
Yeah, the interior is looking a lot better. The exterior, we have plans for landscaping, of course. It's pretty naked as far as bushes, plants, small shrubs, and things like that. We will probably redo the driveway so that they're looking fresh and clean and if appropriate size if that is needed. And probably some exterior paint as well on some of the windows they're a dark brown color now. We plan to add some window boxes, add some flowers, maybe porch railing for safety.
Okay.
And maybe a fence.
Mr. Davenport,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm well familiar with the home, and don't foresee a person really wanting to purchase that home for residential use because of its location and because of the condition it's in. You could probably, it'll be a little tough to rent it to a family, just because of the location and the condition it's in. Now, this lady wants to renovate that property, improve the neighborhood, and turn it into maybe not the most desirable use of the property, but it's going to be better than what it is. Guarantee you that this girl's going to do a good job. So keep that in mind.
Sure.
Please.
All right. Any other questions of the applicant? Is there any opposition to this request? Thank you, ma'am. Any opposition to this request? Any opposition? None? Motion, please.
I make a motion that we deny the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-08 for short-term rental located at 1301 Weston Street because the use will result in increased traffic congestion in a very dangerous curve and that will constitute a nuisance. I do not feel like it's compatible with the neighborhood because of all of the R1 houses in the neighborhood.
That's a proper motion.
Second.
Motion, Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
No, and which I stated my reasons, so it's good.
Chair Davenport?
Yes. That request has been denied. Thank you very much. Lloyd, your comments were very well taken. I understand what you're saying.
I know, I don't think.
All righty. Now, we have one left. Not on the Farm LLC applicant and Taylor Cook Property Leasing Group LLC owner have filed an application to operate an agritourism use on the property located at 4305 Hydro Pondsville Road and 0 Hydro Pondsville Road, approximately 462 feet from Pondsville Road. The properties are zoned AG agricultural and RE residential estate. I thought we'd have more empty seats when we moved this one to the bottom. I guess it didn't. All righty. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. We had two pre-app meetings, one on September 12th of last year, and then again on February 9th of this year. The properties are zoned agriculture and RE. The current land use is agriculture and vacant. And the applicants did supply a site plan, and that can be found on page 9 of your packet for reference. And again, the applicants are requesting a CUP for an agritourism use, more specifically for an event venue space, live entertainment, holiday events, farm tours, farm animal viewing with no interaction, photography sessions on site, community and group events, conferences, work and organizational retreats, catered events, dinner shows, and lodging for wedding party and guest. In addition to the proposed uses, a commercial kitchen and staffed bar area will be available during certain events, and in the future, the applicants would like to construct a single-family residence on their property. Below that are the zoning ordinance reference, Article 5, Section 5.1, use table. A conditional use permit is required to operate in agritourism use on property zoned agriculture. Below that is the list of zoning ordinance reference and specific use standards for agritourism. And on page 2, the applicants did supply 7 conditions with their application. Number 1, permitted uses on their property will include an event venue space, live entertainment, holiday events, farm tours, farm animal viewing, photography session on site, community and group events, conferences, work and organizational retreats, catered events, dinner shows, lodging for wedding, party, and guests. Number 2, agritourism uses shall be limited to a maximum of 500 people on the property. Number 3, hours of operation. So I think this is a two-parter. Sunday through Wednesday, by reservation appointment only, to be operated no earlier than 8 a.m. and no later than 12 a.m. for indoor events or 8 p.m. for outdoor events. Thursday through Saturday, by reservation appointment only, to be operated no earlier than 8 a.m. and no later than 3 a.m. for indoor events or 10 p.m. for outdoor events. The longer operating time on the weekend is to accommodate the dinner shows and performing artists. Number 4, the new entrance to the property shall be located on Hydro-Ponsville Road, and the location of such entrance shall be coordinated with and approved by the Warren County Public Works Department. The new entrance will be gated, and the entire property will be fenced. The existing entrance will be permanently closed once the new entrance is constructed. Number 5, the proposed development will receive approval by the Barren River District Health Department for commercial kitchen, bar facility, and all sanitary provisions prior to the issuance of a building permit. Number 6, any mature trees within 10 feet of the perimeter property lines will be preserved. Additional evergreen trees will be installed as depicted on the attached site plan. And number 7, placement of buildings, parking areas, and travelways will be generally shown on the attached site plan. And then if this application is approved, staff also suggests that the board impose the following condition. Before issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall submit a revised plat consolidating lots 1 and 4, and shall grant limited power of attorney to the Planning Commission in order to convert Lot 4 from its current RE zoning to agriculture. Below that are the conditional use permit findings. Back to page 1 for points to consider. The board should consider if the proposed use is appropriate in the ag zone and if they are compatible with the single-family residential uses that are adjacent to the property. The board should consider if a 500-person event venue will result in increased traffic congestion in the area, and the board should consider if the proposed uses and hours of operation will be disturbing to present surrounding land uses due to noise or other general nuisance. That's all we have for a staff report. We can answer any questions.
All right. Any questions from the board or the staff? Staff? Applicants here? Would you step up, please? I'm sure we got some questions for you. Could we get both of your full names and addresses, please?
All right, my name is Matthew Cook, 1008 Lewis Avenue.
Bowling Green, Kentucky?
Yes.
Okay. And you're?
Caleb Miles, same address,
Same
1008
address.
Lewis
Do
Avenue.
you gentlemen swear to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
You got a pretty big project planned out there. How do you feel like this is compatible with that farmland out there?
So with a combination of both plats, we would have around 14 acres. And we feel that there's adequate space there for the different projects that we have planned. In addition to the existing structure, the main structure, the barn that's on there on the property already, we have the plans to build a similar sized structure next to that, and that's what would house the kitchen and the lodging facility. And then as well as the barn currently, and then the additional structure would be well insulated. Of course, as of right now, it doesn't have doors or windows. Those, of course, it would be completely remodeled. And then, as shown on the plan, the green circles, the privacy trees, that would be planted. Mature privacy trees, not saplings, would also help with the noise reduction as well.
But how is having all these different events you plan on having, it's a business going into pretty much single-family neighborhood and a farming community, and 500 people? That's a lot of people. Excuse me.
I have a question now when you get through.
How do you plan on getting people to this property? I went out there, and I've lived here my whole life, and it's hard enough for me to find daytime. Now, I'm concerned about at nighttime, you're going to have a bar open at 3 o'clock in the morning, and people coming out of there, and they go the wrong way, and you can get really lost back in that area for a long time. You're not concerned about the safety of that many people coming in and out of that little old 2-lane road?
Yeah.
So, alcohol would not be served up until 3 a.m. That would be...
But you're going to serve alcohol anyway.
Right.
Whether it's 3 o'clock or not.
Most wedding venues do
But
offer
I
alcohol.
understand that, but you're on some really narrow 2-lane roads. Does that not, you don't have a safety concern on that? Doesn't bother you?
Have
Many
you
people
guys-
coming in and out?
Have you guys lived in that area? Have you all lived there?
No.
We live in Bowling Green.
Okay.
You don't live there, you're not farmers.
So 500 people is just a number. Like, we don't even have
That's a big number.
That's a big number.
we don't even have, like, our design of the building or anything until we pass the board. So it could be 300 people, 200 people. Like, there's no
That's
set
still a
number.
lot of people.
Okay.
Do you think that the road is wide enough to support a program like this?
Well, they
Do you
checked...
do you actually think it is wide enough to be safe for the people who might be coming to your facilities?
The Planning Commission did check with Warren County Public Works, and they did
No,
say...
I asked you what you thought.
Okay, so I personally, when I'm driving, I don't feel unsafe. I don't feel like I'm hugging the other car when I'm passing different directions. I feel like the road is wide enough, and that's not just because I'm doing a wedding venue. Like, I feel safe going around the curbs. I do know that there's a lot of horse and buggies on that road, so I know to be cautious. In another way, I would hope that the county would put up more signs to make it more aware that it is an Amish community and that there is more horse and buggies out like late at night and to use more caution. But we do have like 3 entrance points, 2 at the opposite ends of Hydro Pontville Road, and then there's another road. What's the name of it? It's right across from the farm.
You say this is agritourism. I'm curious, what's the agri part of it?
There will be farm animals on the property,
Farm animals like
cows.
cows?
Yes.
Like mini cows.
Yeah.
Not big cows.
Okay. That's going to be that's the...
But as well...
And you're going to have a tour of the farm, you say?
Right.
You all
And
going
then-
to do the touring?
Yeah,
You all be the
and-
tour guides? Yeah.
Well, no, we would...
It's only
That would be
14
hired out.
acres. You're going to see it when you...
That's kind of curious how you're doing. It looks to me like you've got a whole lot more going on besides a little agribusiness out there.
But within the KRS, a wedding venue qualifies in itself
Sure.
as agritourism.
Okay.
It does.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
How long have you owned this 14 acres?
We purchased it back in summer of last year.
Did anyone indicate that you would have no problem wanting to do what you want to do?
No, sir.
So you just kind of dreamed this up on your own?
No, it's actually been in the works for several years. We just ran across this property last minute, and we took advantage of it. So it's not something that we just dreamed up.
But you
on.
bought and closed on it, and it's your property?
Right.
Correct. The seller was needing to move out of state, so they were pressed for time. There wasn't really any time to get it approved
But you've been
before then.
making this plan for some location, some tract of land somewhere in Warren County for
Yes.
several years?
That's
Our
correct.
realtor is aware of it, yeah. And our realtor found us the property.
But you understood that you would have to have approval from a board,
And that's why.
or this board, in order to put your agritourism business.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you think about that before you purchased it? Maybe
Yes.
come in here first,
Yes.
but you didn't
We didn't have time.
have time?
We purchased the property either way, but
You're satisfied with your buy, in other
Correct.
words? It's not going to be a life or death issue if you don't get it today?
right.
That's right.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board of the applicants? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Is there any opposition to this request, or you're all just here because you're interested tonight? Are you, Mr. Baker, are you representing most of these people, or would you like, do y'all mind if we just let Mr. Baker go first here? All right, Mr. Baker, go ahead.
That's probably going to be sufficient.
We're not going to deny anybody the opportunity to speak, but I've got a feeling what most of you are going to say, so we'll kind of let him summarize. And if you've got something you need to add after he finishes, that's welcome, but I don't think we need all 50 of you to get up and speak. So, no offense. If you all want to, we'll sit here, but we'd rather not do that. Mr. Baker, go right ahead. You're sworn in, you're officer of the court.
Chairman Davenport and members of the board, of course, the key here is compatibility. Chairman Davenport, I was going to ask for a show of hands for the opposition, but you beat me to it.
Sorry.
Stole
Well, they didn't raise their hand over here. Somebody didn't. Sorry.
Stole a
I'm
little
just
of my
kidding.
thunder. But as you've already observed, we're talking up to 500 people on a narrow county road serving alcohol. The applicants have already mentioned that they acknowledge that there is an Amish community out there. There's also a bicycle group that regularly rides out there meets on a weekly or even twice weekly basis. There's a lot of children in the neighborhood, and what the overarching concern is that there has already been law enforcement called out there on noise complaints. And if there's going to be live music, I guess there can be fraternity parties and events. I guess there could be a Metallica concert if they wanted to have one. And so this is just not a good fit between the noise, the volume of people, the alcohol, the children, the incompatibility, the narrow roads, the rural setting. We're going to ask you to deny this application.
All right. Any questions of Mr. Baker from the board? Would anyone like to add anything to Mr. Baker? Yes, ma'am. Come on up, please. Okay. Well, that's fine. Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, come right ahead. We'll still need to swear you in, sir. Your full
My name
name?
is Terry Mahaney. I live at 2615 Palmsville Road, Smith Grove, Kentucky.
And you swear to tell the truth, sir?
I swear to tell the truth.
You go right ahead. Thank you.
First of all, I appreciate this opportunity. I appreciate my attorney. And I want to say that I appreciate the show of people that have supported their community for this. I am strongly against this for the safety and for the welfare of our community and our children. And that's all that I have to say.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Yes, ma'am. You know the drill here. Your full name and address, please.
Morgan Test, and my address is 4321 Hydro Pondsville Road,
You
Smith
swear
Grove,
to tell the
Kentucky.
truth, ma'am?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I am going to read from my phone today, just because I typed this out, and I want to get
Okay.
out quickly and not waste your all's time and
That's
their
fine.
time.
Thank you.
Okay. Today I typed this message because what I'm about to speak on I'm very passionate about. And I apologize if I cry.
That's all right.
While I do stand very firm on my opinion about the possibility of this wedding venue, animal farm, whatever it might be, happening in my backyard, I also want to respect all parties and would never want to disrespect anyone. With that being said, I am the new homeowner at 4321 Hydro Pondsville Road, which is located 20 feet over the fence line from where this establishment is going to come. I purchased this family home from my parents, and I am located literally 20 feet off of Not on the Farm. I am also the mother of Baylor, who is present today with me. He is my 6-year-old son, who was born with a life-altering brain malformation. and it makes him both mentally and physically disabled. Baylor requires 110% dependent care, and he's a very unique child. He requires care from both myself and his stepfather, and Baylor has a very, very unique sleep schedule that requires quiet, sound machines, weighted blankets multiple times during the night. He requires suctioning, repositioning, feeding, and bed changes. As a special needs family, we receive very minimal hours of sleep. Allowing this wedding venue, animal farm, or whatever it may be, with midnight to 3 a.m. hours would absolutely wreak havoc on our daily life, my mental health, our sleep routines, and somewhat existing schedules. The main parking lot for this venue is 20 feet off of Baylor's bedroom window. I also have 4 school-aged children that are in bed every evening at 8 p.m. I'm highly concerned about the noise, music, and hustle and bustle of a wedding, farm event, or whatever it is this venue might be. Please take Baylor into consideration when granting this conditional use permit for such a business to be located off the back corner of our new home containing small elementary-aged children and a disabled child. In addition to the disturbance to our special needs child and elementary-aged children, I'm highly concerned what the incoming of this new establishment will do to the value of our property and our newly purchased home. This home has been in our family in the same location for 20-plus years. In past years, the not on the farm potential property was utilized by Amish and various property owners. Ideally, this farm is best utilized in that manner, based on my personal opinion. Please also consider the fact that a beautiful wedding venue, Elkins Grove, is located just 2 roads over from this potential location of not on the farm. This information adds to the point that an additional wedding venue is just not necessary in our area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone want to follow up to that? Yes, ma'am. Come up, please.
Your full name and address, please?
Tracy Mitchell, 2068 Pondsville, Kepler Road, Smith Grove.
You swear to tell the truth, ma'am?
Yes,
Go
sir.
right ahead.
Okay. If you can look at that picture up there, down in the left corner there, you'll see the barn and the pond. That is our property, okay? With this venue coming in, you're going to have alcohol. I have horses that I treasure very, very much. I am an avid trail rider that is in that area. I do not, my husband included, does not want some drunk, oh, what a pretty horse, let's go over and feed it. You can't feed horses anything for anybody that does not know. Or to say, let's go over there and we'll pet it, and then they decide, let's get on and see if we can ride. No, don't touch my horses. Or there's the pond. Some drunk come over, we're going to be liable. And we also do keep stuff in that barn. This community, I'm sorry, does not want it. Totally against it. We are totally against it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I believe you. Anybody else want to say anything? We got them crying and fired up, so all right, come on up. Who's coming? Somebody coming? Did somebody else want to come up? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I disagree with your assessment of the road.
Can we give you a full name and address,
I'm
please?
sorry.
That's all right.
Jeremy Gale Blemmings,
And your address?
4402 Hydro Pondsville Road.
Have you
It's the
swear-
place down in the lower right corner.
You swear to tell the truth, sir?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
I run a commercial service truck for, obviously, for the cat dealer here. It's a large truck. It's in size capacity, but a road tractor. Pretty much is the same as the road tractors. The haul milk tankers down that road regularly. I've seen at least 1 or 2 a day. I know these people, and I still get nervous passing them. I mean, farm equipment, they're escorted, but sometimes the escort isn't as far in front of them as I would like. Sometimes it's very hard to get off that road to make room for something like that. I operate under motor carrier enforcement guidelines for hours of service also. Last weekend I was on call 24 hours a day. I could sit down to my dinner and be called out till 2, 3 in the morning or the next day. Technically, I'm not on duty, so that applies. But when I come home to rest, I need to get my rest to reset for the next day, which is typically a 10-hour rest period. There are days I come in the backside of my property because I'm just a little worn out and I'd rather not have to deal with the traffic. And as for the noise, yeah, when I can hear it on the other end of my house in my bedroom, it's, I think, excessive.
All right. Very
So
good.
that is all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
The road assessment, I have a particular view of that.
I understand. Thank you very much.
for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, one more? Anybody else need to? All right, we'll let these gentlemen respond to your concerns. Gentlemen, where'd you go? Y'all want to respond to what they've got, their concerns? It's up to you. You're still sworn in, so we'll just let you respond to their concerns.
Okay, so we don't live in this area. We don't know hardly anyone. We know a few people from here. We're not here to argue. We're not here to fight. We're just here to simply open an event venue that is family oriented. This is not a sorority party kind of thing. This is not a bar. This is not anything that's hostile. So one thing I want to mention is that we do plan on putting up a fence all the way around. So the fence would be, we have a family dog that we would like to have on the property as well when we build our residence up in the top left corner. So we want our dog to run free on our farm when there's no one there, right? So we want this fence to be able to hold our dog in because we treasure our dog just like the lady treasures her horses. It's our baby, right? So everyone has their own family. Everyone loves their family like we have our own family as well. So, you know, this is not a project that we plan to go in and, you know, half do. Like, we plan to make it look nice, to increase the property value of the surrounding properties as well as ours. So the green giants, which is the trees that go along the property line, those are a buffer for sound, noise, dust. They grow about 3 to 4 foot every year. They grow about 15 foot tall, and we would purchase them at above 6 to 8 foot already when they plant into the ground. So it'd be instant privacy from any of the neighbors. You wouldn't be able to see in. They plant about 3 foot or 5 foot from each other, so they it's just like a fence altogether, even though we'd have a fence there as well for security of our farm and to protect the people that are there. So another thing is we received a complaint from the Sheriff's Department back around last October about a noise complaint. That was an open barn, nothing but metal, a lot of open windows, a lot of open doors. All we had up was plastic, but we had a Halloween party for our family, less than 20 people. So it was just kind of a last minute thing that we threw together. We haven't had parties there since. That's not our goal, is to interrupt our neighbors. We live in the city. We know exactly what it's like to be disturbed by noise, like subwoofers. Like, it's very disturbing. But what can you do about it in the city? I mean, it's been very challenging on our end as we own several properties in the same area. I mean, it's like calling the police like all the time just to have them to turn the music down because, you know, your walls are rattling. So we know exactly what it's like to be woke up in the middle of the night. You know, we own a towing company, so we're in and out all hours of the night. So with that being said, you know, we sleep when we can sleep. So when someone comes in, the neighbors come in and they have their music wide open and it wakes you up, like it makes you go to the door just to ask them to turn it down. But at that point, you know, there's nothing else that you can do but gain the respect from your neighbors, you know, and talk to them and let them know. So, you know, with the neighbor that is in the bottom right corner, she was talking about her son, like, getting woke up 20 foot from the parking lot. Well, there would be a buffer there. We plan to build up like a hill with a fence, and it would have the green giants as well. So, like, you wouldn't even see the property. You wouldn't see the driveway. Another thing is because the parking lot would be rather up at the top of the Hydro Pondsville Road or back at the farm, it would require like a shuttle. So we don't plan to have like a gas shuttle. We plan to have battery shuttles, like 15 passenger, like battery back and forth. So you're not even going to hear like motors, basically. And with the, we don't even plan to keep the existing barn there. We plan to start from scratch. So this would be like it wouldn't be an eyesore. It would be something way nicer. It would be sound barriers on the inside of the building. So obviously you're not playing music like out in the, it's not going to be what they have in their head. They have in their head that it's going to be really disturbing. They're going to hear it from next door. We plan to build our sound system into the venue so we have control over the sound system. So it's not going to be disturbing that far just because they've had a bad experience from our Halloween party.
All right. Any other questions from the board of the applicants here? Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. All right, motion, please.
I make a motion that we deny the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-04 for agro-tourism located at 0 and 4305 Hydro Pondsville Road. The uses would be detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare in the zone which is proposed. And the uses will result in increased traffic congestion and constitute a nuisance. The uses do not meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance, and the proposed development is not compatible with the neighborhood.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, your request has been denied. You got a good idea, but you just need to do it someplace else, guys. That's just not the right place. All right. And thank you all for coming. Appreciate your participation. Thank you all very much. All right, any old business tonight?
No, sir.
Any new business, Hoy?
No, sir.
All righty, we're adjourned.